Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Talk with AVC. And as you can see, once again, from about 2 weeks ago, I believe, we have my friend and our special guest with the NFL Talk, Max Saponis. How you doing, buddy?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
It's great to have you here, buddy. So I think it's always fun bringing in Max here, especially because you listen to me ramble by myself in the last two segments. It's nice to have another talking head that you guys can listen to. I know you love hearing my beautiful voice, but it's nice to hear somebody else for a change.
Yes, the voice of AVC is something special.
All right, well, we'll get right into it before we start to ramble for about 3 hours. The Packers. What happened this week?
I'll tell you what happened, AVC. We came out flat. We looked ahead of the Chargers. The last time that the Chargers played at home, they got embarrassed by the Steelers. Melvin Gordon came out publicly saying he was extremely unhappy with not only the outcoming of the fans, which is pretty LA's notorious for that, but even how the people that run the stadium were acting in terms of what music they were playing. You could just tell LA was pissed off. And I think that Green Bay 7-1 kind of came into town feeling like it was their own home game. And
the Chargers on paper still have a very talented roster. I think they really missed Derwin James. I think that's a really big injury for them. And the other thing with the Chargers is their fan attendance is so bad, they've now considered moving to London.
Yeah.
That came out yesterday, is that they are open if the NFL wants to move them to London. That's how bad your attendance is, that you're willing to move a country?
Yeah.
You're willing to play overseas? First off, that would be a nightmare for contracts. Think about that, because how would the travel expenses would not only be ridiculous, you'd have to get dual citizenship almost for certain players. Players would have to have an option in their contract if they'd even want to play in another country.
Yeah, that'd be a disaster.
That'd be a nightmare. But as far as the Packers, I feel like the Packers kind of always have one of these games every year. They have that one game where they kind of come out a little flat.
Yeah.
And they play like a weird team like the Chargers. It's not usually a bad team because the Chargers aren't really a bad team. They're just kind of a disappointing team. And I feel like that kind of happens with the Packers. They play like a disappointing team and they lose a close one.
Yeah. I thought that was the game against the Eagles, but I think that was too early in the season. Honestly, the best thing that happened this week for Green Bay is that every other team in our division lost.
Yeah.
So nothing really changes in the division rankings. We're just going to take this as a learning experience, get focused up, and move on, which I think is the best thing that could happen for us.
Speaking of the best things that could have happened, can we get to the best moment of this week? Just right off the bat. The Dolphins won a game.
The Dolphins are in the winning column, baby.
And they beat the Jets. Apologies to all my friends who are Jets fans. This is going to be a little rough part here.
Yeah.
You know why? Actually, I'm going to come out with a bold statement here. I'm going to say the Jets might actually be in worse shape than the Dolphins. And here's why. The Dolphins are trying to lose. No matter what they say publicly, we all know the Dolphins are trying to finish with a bad record and get a top 3 draft pick. The Jets came into this season with wild card aspirations. And they've won one game. Yeah. And they shouldn't have even won that one.
Yep.
Also, can we call the Cowboys the new age Steelers about playing down the competition? Jesus, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But, this goes back to the whole Adam Gase hiring for the Jets. Why? Not only do you hire Adam Gase, you saw the nightmare of what happened when you gave him any sort of control in Miami. That's why you got fired by the Dolphins. Then you get to pick the GM. And honestly, the Jets GM, he's not a bad GM. He was with another team for a couple of years. He's actually not a bad GM. But the fact that you let Adam Gase pick your GM is what concerns me. And also, really? The AFC East? You don't recruit coaches from the AFC East that aren't from the Patriots. It's a crappy division. It's why half the reason the Patriots have a dynasty.
Yeah.
Why are you recruiting from that division?
Go anywhere else.
And Sam Darnold has not looked any better under Adam Gase. If anything, he looks worse.
Yeah, I think, with the leaving of Todd Bowles, I feel like maybe they thought he was a little too defensive orientated, which he is. He's a defensive.
He's a
guy.
defensive coach. He's a good defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He's not a great head coach, but he's a good defensive
So
coordinator.
I think maybe they saw something in Gaze that he would work well with Darnold for some reason. I don't know why, but I have to imagine that was their intention when they made that.
I get the intention, but you have to look back at history here for a second. They like to call offensive coordinators quarterback gurus. Who has Gase really gurued? Jay Cutler? Was Jay Cutler ever really that good in Chicago?
I mean,
Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill.
Matt Moore? It was a bunch of veteran quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He's never molded a young quarterback. And honestly, I think the Dolphins players are buying into Brian Flores more than the Jets are buying into Adam Gase.
Yeah. I think that the Jets should have realized they made a huge mistake after that. His first interview when he looked like
he looked high. I don't know what else to say other than
great.
he looked high. And, then we get to the whole trade deadline debacle with the Jets. First, Jamal Adams is angry because apparently they listened to offers for him. First off, why are you angry? Get out while you have the chance. Get out while you have the chance. Yeah. They wanted a first round pick, and they wanted like Zach Martin from the Cowboys for Jamal Adams, which is ridiculous. And then apparently there were about 3 to 4 teams interested in Le'Veon Bell.
One of them being the Steelers.
Which, given the fact that the Steelers are one game out of the wild card, again, we'll get to them in a minute, that would be a good trade, I think, if you could get you can't get a first from the Steelers because they already gave that up, but you could get maybe a couple seconds. And for a running back, that's pretty good value.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything this year anyway.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why they didn't get the offers they wanted. It's not like you're a contending team and teams know that, okay, this is the last piece that we need. We'll give you anything you want. Like, they're not going anywhere in the playoffs. They're not even making the playoffs. So we're not gonna give you everything you want for him. Here's
my other thing is why do we do this to ourselves every year? I feel like analysts and just fans, we always hype up the NFL trade deadline. Nothing happens. All the big trades happen in the offseason. Yeah. Nothing big happens at the deadline. All right, I think we've dealt with the Jets enough. Let's move to another struggling team. Let's move to the Browns. They lost to Brandon Allen this week. Now, last week, if you guys remember, I talked about we might see the return of decent Baker because of the weakness of the second half of their schedule. I wouldn't have been that surprised to see them go 8-0 with this last part of their schedule because it features the Bengals twice, I believe the Dolphins and the Cardinals, and it included Denver without Joe Flacco.
And they just lost.
And they just lost to Denver without Joe Flacco. Baker looks lost.
Yeah.
He just really doesn't look good.
I don't know if it's, again, we always talk about once the NFL has a whole year film that they play you differently. I don't know if he's just getting different looks that he's not used to and he's kind of cracking under pressure, or he's on the field too much, but he's just not looking good this year.
Well, you and I, of course, talked about this when this first happened, was the whole Freddie Kitchens thing.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. And I think the Browns have started to realize that. And he's definitely getting dumped in the offseason. Yeah. But bringing in a one-year offensive coordinator just because your quarterback had okay stats. He didn't have great stats. He had okay stats. And putting him in charge of this locker room, if any locker room, this locker room.
Yeah. All the characters.
That was a nightmare waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And it's sad now that Odell is missing Eli Manning.
Yeah.
That's the... When Odell's missing an aging Eli Manning, that's bad.
Yeah. I think the whole thing that happened with the Freddie Kitchens hiring, I think that the Browns got so sick of being the joke of the NFL. They had one decent year and they got a little too excited, a little too quick. And the first year they saw something work, they immediately promoted that guy to head coach.
Yeah, and now the whole thing is now him and Jarvis are making just all these headlines for wrong reasons. I mean, come on, the cleats. What are you doing with that? You've been in the NFL long enough to know you can't wear custom cleats. Yes, it's a ridiculous rule, but you can't do it.
Yeah, rules are rule.
And now Kareem Hunt's going to be coming back. That's going to be a whole nother thing now.
Yeah, that could go one of two ways for them.
The Browns got no identity on the O-line.
Yeah.
Can we say it now? Are they done?
Yeah, especially the way that Baltimore is starting to kind of run away with that division.
That's the thing. They got to play Baltimore again.
There's no way they're beating Baltimore. I don't see them beating Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't even see them beating Pittsburgh now.
They're not.
They'll beat Cincy. They'll beat Miami.
Yeah.
But also, get Odell the ball. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Two looks a game?
Terrible.
No. I'm not even a big Odell fan. You know that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that. Oh, this is going to be a fun one for you. Bears are done. I said it last time. I'm done with the Bears. I'm done with the Bears. I'm done with the Bears. People keep saying to me, they're going to turn around. Don't worry. Just wait. They're going to be good again. They're going to be good. It's just going to be like last year. Nope. Kill it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with the Bears. I'm done with Mitch Trubisky. I'm done with Matt Nagy. This is a dumpster fire.
Yes.
On offense. 9 yards. 9 yards in the first half against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is not even that good of a defense.
Yeah. I can't really talk that much or as much BS as I want because Green Bay lost to them and we also lost to the Chargers. But we played the Eagles much more competitive than the Bears did. And I don't know why they're not feeding David Montgomery the ball at least 20
we
times.
We talked about this last time. Maggie was quoted and saying, I know we need to run the ball more. I'm not an idiot. You had 6 rushing attempts in the first half. Mitchell Trubisky should never throw the ball over 30 times a game.
No.
Just never should happen. And Tariq Cohen, what the heck happened? He had a good year, and people thought he was like the next Danny Woodhead.
Yeah.
And he can't even receive anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I'm thrilled about it because seeing that guy gives me nightmares just thinking about it. But I feel like he's one of those types of players where he's only playing well if the rest of the offense is clicking. Because if Mitch isn't pushing the ball down the field effectively, then it's guys like Tariq Cohen that are just getting little dump-off passes or screens. Like, that's what you have to worry about.
And, we always harp on the whole defense wins championships thing. Your defense can only do so much for you after a while, especially if they're on the field 40 minutes a game.
It's too much.
It's too much. Even with Khalil Mack and all those studs on defense, eventually they're just going to run out of gas.
Yeah.
And I said it last week too, don't count out Philadelphia just yet. They still have some veterans on this roster. They still have Doug Peterson, who's a quality coach. I was hoping they'd get Deshaun Jackson back for their sake, but he looks like he's going to be done the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count them out just yet. Now we got now we move into our bigger segment here, which is we're at about the halfway point, I'd say, in the NFL, or we're just past it in the NFL season. So we're going to go through most of the playoff watch teams, and we're going to go contender or pretender. Let's start at the top, Baltimore.
Contender. 100%.
We had questions early in the year, especially after that game against the Chiefs. I'm not going to say this game against the Patriots completely shut that down, but we've both said it for a long time. John Harbaugh is a very underrated coach. It's a John or Jim? It's John. It's John. Yeah, John Harbaugh is a very underrated coach, and the Ravens have stability in the front office at the coaching position, and they have an identity.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: both of us have played high school football. We know how hard practicing is. Imagine now in the NFL, this is how it is in the NFL now. You practice in pads once a week. And then you got to come out and play a team like Baltimore that runs the ball like 30 to 40 times a game.
Yeah, your body's tough. Just not ready for it.
That's tough, especially in the first half. On defense, you're going to get gashed.
Yeah. And I think with Baltimore, John Harbaugh is hands down a defensive coach. So
he's a defensive and special teams coach.
2 years ago or last year, 2 years ago when they drafted Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
That the fact that he's such a defensive guy gave him the freedom to go out and say, like, I'm not handcuffed to an offensive system. I can make that wild card pick. I can take Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you can make that work.
I'm not known for being some offensive system guy. Like,
no,
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you the freedom to do
exactly.
that. Yeah. The Patriots.
Contender.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should be too worried, honestly, about this loss. I don't think they weren't going to go 16-0.
Yeah.
This was probably the hardest game on their schedule, so some people will be worried. Give Belichick a second game against Lamar Jackson in Foxborough.
Yeah, see what happens
in
the playoffs.
I'd be shocked if they don't win that. Kansas City.
I mean, I'm saying contender. They won this past week with a game-winning field goal without Pat Mahomes, so I'm just waiting to see how he is when he comes back. If he's still mobile, if he can throw the ball down the field, which I'm sure he will be able to.
Yeah, Andy Reid gets a lot of crap as a coach, but he really is a good offensive coach.
Yeah.
He really is. I mean, he can't manage a game clock to save his life,
No.
but he is a good offensive coach. And the fact that he can win with a game with Matt Moore against anybody, given the fact Matt Moore was coaching high school football last year.
Yeah, this summer.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
All right, now we get into the more interesting ones. Pittsburgh.
Pretender.
Had they gotten Le'Veon Bell, I might have moved them back into the contender category just because I think they would have found an identity. But with James Conner now hurt, they don't have the offense to beat any of the top teams in the AFC.
I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think they have the defense either. Minkah Fitzpatrick
has been
he's won them 2 games.
Yeah.
Pick 6 and another pick. He has 3 picks in the past 2 weeks.
They have a very inconsistent defense. One week they'll show up, they'll be great. Next week they'll be a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Devin Bush has looked great as a rookie. I think that was a really good pick by them. And they better be happy with it because that's the last first-round pick they're going to get for a while.
Yeah, they jumped up from 20 to 10.
Yeah, so that was a good pick by them. Stephon Tuitt is still a beast most of the time. He's not what he used to be, and Cam Hayward definitely isn't what he used to be. And TJ Watt has kind of fallen off a little bit this year.
Yeah.
But, Pittsburgh, they'll hang around. They'll hang around. Maybe they'll get a wild card spot, just given the fact that the AFC is a dumpster fire outside of the top teams. But that's just kind of where we sit with them right now, I think. Indianapolis.
I feel like the Colts are the ultimate wild card in the AFC right now. They're not winning their division.
No.
Jacoby Brissett got hurt.
Hoyer's now playing.
Brian Hoyer's their quarterback. I think if Brissett comes back in the next week or two and they can kind of string out the second half of the year nicely, I think that they're one of those teams like Pittsburgh who could find themselves in the wild card.
I think they're better than Pittsburgh, even though they lost to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, 100%.
Even though they lost to Pittsburgh. Brissett going down probably really hurt them.
Yeah.
But I think they're slightly better than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh might have a slightly better defense, but that O-line can just win you a lot of games.
Yeah.
So the next one, Chargers. I'm going to go Pretenders. Has there been a more disappointing team, honestly, than the Chargers?
Other than Chicago?
Other than maybe Chicago and Atlanta?
No. They're definitely top 3.
I mean, all the talent on this roster, and you waste it like this. It's an abomination to football. You waste it in an empty stadium. When you had San Diego, at least the crowd was there.
Yeah.
But we talked about the Chargers enough in previous thing. Let's move on. How about the Jags? They're still hanging around.
Yeah. I mean,
contender or pretender?
In terms of Super Bowl, obviously, I'm going to say pretender. In terms of playoffs, I'd say they're a contender for the wild card.
I'd go pretender without Jalen Ramsey. Their defense is still solid, still definitely a good unit. But without Ramsey, I don't see them getting much far in the playoffs. I mean, they could maybe sneak into the wild card. Any of these AFC teams could maybe sneak into the wild card. But I just don't see them getting really anywhere.
Yeah.
They have an identity, at least, with Fournette, and he's staying relatively healthy. Happy for him. But, Minshew's all right, but it's a long shot for them.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of other teams they have to hurdle in order to get there. Texans.
Pretenders.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Deshaun Watson's playing very well this year. Like MVP level well.
You know what? Just real quick, I want to bring something up with Deshaun Watson. Just because a lot of people saw it. I don't know if you saw the Baker Mayfield thing where he told off the reporter.
Yeah.
Because the reporter didn't really know. There was a similar question asked to Deshaun Watson in a previous game. And he literally said to the reporter, "Do you want me to explain it?"
Yeah.
And the reporter said, "Yeah." And Watson laid out like the most football answer. Like, this is what the play was. This is where my looks. Here's what I saw. This is what happened. And That's just the perfect answer to that question. You don't do what Baker did and you get all angry and walk off. Deshaun Watson, he had a mediocre years last year at Clemson, and it hurt his draft stock. Wow, I bet a lot of teams are regretting not getting him.
Yeah, for sure.
So back to the Texans. I worry for their defense without J.J.
Yes,
Watt.
that's exactly why.
You know, their secondary is weak as is. They traded Clowney to Seattle, and now they're without Watt.
Yeah.
They'll get in the playoffs. They'll probably win a playoff game this year. I think this is probably the year they'll win a playoff game, just because I think they'll host a wild card team, and it'll be a bad team.
I feel like the Texans, that's kind of their MO, though. That's happened in multiple years in the past.
Yeah, and they'll win a playoff game. They'll go into like Baltimore or Foxborough, and they'll get smacked.
Yeah.
That's just my feeling on what will happen. How about the Bills?
Love Josh Allen, but pretenders. I mean,
they have a ceiling on offense.
Yeah, they can only go so high as of right now. I mean, Josh Allen's he's
progressing.
Yeah, he's great raw talent, but he's just not there yet in terms of like
no, he's not there yet.
Playoff NFL quarterback.
He's not ready. They're not ready to challenge the Patriots just yet. Last one for the AFC. Raiders.
Pretenders.
You know, they have a bit of an identity. I like Josh Jacobs. John Gruden's a good coach. They're not going anywhere with that defense.
Not ready yet.
Not ready yet. Give them a couple years if Gruden sticks around.
Yeah.
Carolina Panthers.
I mean, how long can Christian McCaffrey carry that team is the question.
I think we saw it when they played San Fran.
Yeah.
You know, Kyle Allen's okay. Cam Newton might end up now going on the IR. But Kyle Allen's all right. And I'm going to harken back to Kyle Allen on a point I'm going to make in a little bit. But, you know, their defense is okay. It's not great. So, again, they're a team that has a bit of a ceiling. We're seeing a lot of teams, it's mostly due to injuries, but a lot of teams with kind of an identity, but they have a ceiling one way or the other.
Yeah.
This is the point. Dallas Cowboys.
Pretenders. Even if they win the division and they go to the playoffs, it's a complete joke.
I can agree with you on that. I think that the Cowboys are the NFC Steelers. The rate at which they play down to their competition is absolutely insane. They were losing to the Giants in the first half. They lost to the Jets in MetLife. They were in a close game for almost the entire first half against Miami. Need I go on?
Yeah.
They're just... congrats, Stack. You're really earning that $40 million a year. I would not pay him that. That's what he wants, I'm not paying him.
The first play of the game last night was, did you see that?
That RPO? What was that?
Threw it right into the guy's hands.
That is the perfect example for those who want to understand how that works. The RPO, he's supposed to be reading the middle of the field, kind of like that, usually the Mike linebacker. If the linebacker crashes, he throws the pass. If he doesn't, he hands the ball off or he keeps it himself. That's usually the way that read works. For whatever reason, he just caught it, did like a quick, didn't even really go through the motion with the fake, and just tried to throw a bullet. I don't know what he saw if the receiver beat the corner, but Theo was standing right there waiting for the ball.
Yeah. So that's not a $40 million quarterback right there.
No, and quite honestly, I think you only need to look at a guy like Kyle Allen and think, I think Kyle Allen could win about the same amount of games with the Cowboys offense that Dak Prescott could.
Yeah.
I think they could get like a mid-round quarterback or like a low level. Honestly, if Teddy Bridgewater becomes a free agent, I'd rather pay him like maybe $7 to $10 million a year for like 2 or 3 years than I would pay Dak 40.
Yeah. We're seeing the reason why Dak fell in the draft.
Yes.
It's not because of any other reason.
It's not because of reason. It's because his IQ has increased over the years, but it's still not great. He still doesn't have a great passing IQ as a QB.
No.
He's never going to be a pocket passer no matter how much they try to make him so. Philadelphia.
Pretenders. I mean, they need to win the division to make the playoffs even. And
yeah, I think maybe they have a shot at the wild card, but yeah, I think they're going to have to win in Philly versus Dallas. They're going to have to avenge that god-awful loss they had to Dallas. Yeah. Their defense needs to keep playing well.
Yeah.
New Orleans.
Contenders, 100%.
I don't even think we really need to talk about that. Like I said in the previous segment, I think there's really just a divide between the Pats, the Saints, and the Niners, and then everybody else.
Yeah, they're just.
And, we'll go right into that. San Francisco.
It's just so hard to believe that they're good because they've been so bad for the past
Ever since,
however many years.
Yeah, ever since their last Super Bowl.
It's kind of like every week you're waiting. You're like, this is the week they're going to mess it up.
You know what stuck to me this week? They got challenged by Arizona. Kyler Murray had a pretty solid game. Arizona played really well. They had a good game plan in. Here's what stuck with me this week. Through this entire year with San Fran, it's been the defense and the run game. This week, basically the Niners said to Jimmy Garoppolo, we need you to win us this game. And Jimmy went out there and did it. This was by far his best game of the year. And he really won them this game.
Yeah, and I think that's how it needs to be if they are going to be Super Bowl contenders.
Agreed. If they're going to be, they're not. He's not going to have to do it every week or even every game, even in like the playoffs. He's not going to have to do it every game with this defense and this run game. But he has to be able to do it, and he proved that he can do it this week. So I think that's a big thing for them. Arizona is a competitive team. Honestly, it's nice to see
their record doesn't show.
The record doesn't reflect the fact that they're actually a decent team. They're playing better than a lot of people expected. Vikings,
pretenders.
The Vikings are another team that plays down to competition a lot. They usually win, but you see why they're not talked about in the same level as other teams. On paper, they should be, but they're not. And that 19-7 game against Washington is why.
Yeah.
Just a lot of sloppy football.
Yeah, your quarterback who you're paying like $80-90 million just never won a
fully
playoff
guaranteed.
game.
Never
guaranteed.
Never won a playoff game.
You had to basically his receivers threatened to leave or just straight out publicly humiliated him in order for him to start playing well.
He doesn't do well when he throws the ball over 30 times.
No. Dalvin Cook carried that team for the first 7 weeks of the season.
Absolutely.
They don't have all the pieces to be contenders.
No, they don't. Los Angeles Rams.
I think they have too much of a Super Bowl slump this year. They're not ready. They need to go back to the drawing board. They need to figure it out. They need to figure out what to do with Todd Gurley in terms of all of his injuries and knee problems.
They need to fix the O-line.
Yeah.
For the Rams, one thing I will say is I think they're getting their bye week at the wrong time. They just rattled off 2 wins. Yeah, it was against Atlanta and Cincy, but they got some momentum back.
Yeah.
And now you have an off week. Especially in this division, with how well this division's playing this year. Again, the Cardinals are competitive. The Seahawks will get to them next, and the Niners.
Yeah. You need all the help you can get.
Yeah. And that'll bring us to what I think is the hardest one to decide. Seattle.
I think they're contenders. I mean, Russell Wilson's an MVP candidate.
Russell Wilson is the MVP right now, completely in my opinion.
Yeah.
Originally, I had it as Christian McCaffrey, but it's Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Good God, it's Russell Wilson. My worry with the Seahawks is this is the worst Pete Carroll defense I've ever seen in my life. I don't think, even back to USC, I don't think I've ever seen a Pete Carroll run defense this exposed.
Yeah. This year's Seahawks kind of reminds me of like how Green Bay's been the past however many years in terms of the defense just isn't there. But we're just gonna say Aaron Rodgers, go out and win us this game. Russell Wilson, there's a minute left in the game and we're down by 7 points. Go make something happen.
Overtime.
Exactly.
Go make something happen. 5 touchdowns. Oh.
And it's just how long can he do that for? I don't know. But he has been doing it and he's been playing really well. I think he's slowly starting to kind of put himself in that group of quarterbacks where it's your team has full faith in you. If we're down with a minute left, like we know you're going to win the game.
The true test is this week. I don't remember which day it is, if it's Thursday, Sunday night, or Monday night, but the Seahawks and the Niners.
Yeah.
We remember because this is when we were really growing up as football fans. Those what was it, like a best of 3 with the Seahawks and the Niners in the playoffs? Watching those games.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
the emergence of Kaepernick, the emergence of the Richard Sherman
pick,
press talk. Is the rivalry back?
I mean, I feel like I can't answer that until this game because I'd love to have him play in the playoffs. Like, let's say Seattle gets a wild card. I think that would be big, but honestly, neither of them. I don't know. I just feel like they're different teams with different identities. Like,
And we keep stressing on this, and some people have asked me about this. Like, what? How much does identity really matter? Identity in football is so important.
Yeah.
To have an identity. You look at all the good, consistent teams; they have an identity. You and I were texting back and forth during the Patriot game. The first touchdown New England scored, it was a little goal line out route to Mohamed Sanu. How many times have we seen that exact formation, that exact play run with guys like Sanu, Edelman, or Amendola?
Yeah, 1,000 times.
That's how you win games. The Ravens, they run the ball. They have an identity. The Seahawks, they run the ball. They throw vertical. They have an identity. That's why these teams have consistent success.
Yeah.
And it's the teams, sometimes people say it's defense wins championships. It's if you can stick to your identity, I think.
Yeah, if you can stay true to who you are and do it successfully, that's how you win.
So we have a little bit of time left. So let's get into just some mishmash stuff and just what we kind of think's going on with the NFL right now. There's a couple of interesting teams and that are in like a little bit of the flux coming off of a bye, and we want to see where they're going next. I'm going to take this time because on this show, I've tried not to talk too much about my Falcons because one, it's been depressing this year. And two, I try to cover as much of the other teams as possible. I don't like to seem biased. But
where to begin?
You know, it obviously hasn't been the same since the Super Bowl.
No.
That's the furthest I'm going to touch on that. But there's so much talent on this team.
Yeah, you're one of those teams like kind of almost like the Vikings, where on paper you're like, oh my God, this is a Super Bowl team. And then you look at their record or you watch them play and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, and you don't even want to compare them to the Vikings because they're almost like the Chargers. Like they play really well, and then they have like a game or two. You're like, what?
Yeah, but like, who is this?
It's like a different teams on the field. And the trade deadline came and passed, and their only move was really Mohamed Sanu for a second-round pick. The Lions had apparently offered a mid-round pick for Devontae Freeman. The Falcons declined it. There was an offer made for somebody else. I think Desmond Trufant, the Eagles. The Eagles offered, I believe, 2 seconds for Desmond Trufant. The Falcons said no.
That's surprising.
Here's my opinion on that. Thomas Dimitrov's getting the boot as the GM. And here's why. Normally, if a GM is going to shake it up, they're going to do it at the deadline. If the team might be in turnover, you almost don't want to shake it up until you get the new GM because you want to let them institute their vision. Otherwise, they're basically starting a year behind.
Yeah.
Kind of like what the Jets did. That's why it was weird. They hired the GM after the offseason. Like, what's the point of that? Now the GM's could have a completely different set of plans.
Yeah.
And you got to mess that all up.
I mean, you could kind of look at it both ways. So, I mean, Trufant's a middle-aged corner. Corners don't last that long.
No.
So,
and he hasn't been the guy he used to be. People forget how good he used to be.
Yeah.
He used to be a really good corner.
Yeah. So I don't know. Some people might say I'd rather have the extra draft capital with a new GM stepping in, so I have more kind of picks and people to choose from that are much younger than just have one middle-aged corner. But I
don't think his value will diminish too much. I think you could still probably get a second or so for him in the offseason if you really wanted to trade him.
Yeah, I think like
Devontae Freeman, I think that was a one-time deal. You had to hop on that when you got the chance. Either that or you got to release him.
Yeah, he's
just not the same player he used to be. Matt Ryan's back this week. And honestly, my question is why?
Yeah, why bring him back?
Why bring him back? I mean, I know you're not trying to tank. I know that's honestly though, this is always something that bothers me about Atlanta. The years they have bad years, they never finish like 3 and they never finish in the top of the draft.
Yeah.
They finish like 5-11, 7-9. They rattle off like 3 or 4 wins at the end of the season, and every fan's like, "Why did you decide to do that now?"
Yeah, Just get a good pick.
Get a good pick. I want Chase Young. That's all I want.
Not touching him.
Oh, but and then we look at the Bengals, who are a team that, again, another team on paper that shouldn't be this bad. They should be at least like a 7-9 team, but they're just bad.
Abysmal.
And now Ryan Finley's coming in. Andy Dalton gets benched on his birthday.
That's cold. It's a good move, though. It's a good move.
I think they want to see what they have in Finley.
Exactly. The season's
because
toast.
you're going to take a quarterback this year. There's not a quarterback class like this for a couple of years. And I keep seeing people saying Miami might not actually take a quarterback here. They might wait or something. Look, the more Pittsburgh wins, the more likely they're going to take a quarterback with their first pick.
Yeah.
You're not waiting to see if your pick shows up. Look what the Browns did when they had 1-4. They had the Giants and the Jets in between them.
Yeah.
Are you risking losing your quarterback?
No. Take it.
But some people are saying, maybe you got to give Josh Rosen a chance with a better supporting cast. Just give him another team.
Yeah, trade him.
That poor guy, man. He had Arizona. He went from the worst team in the NFL to the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, he's, in my opinion, I don't think he's that good of a quarterback.
He's an immobile quarterback who probably has a bit of a ceiling. That's probably about a middle tier backup.
Yeah, that's not who I want.
But just some, So I think that'll probably wrap it up for us here. Max, again, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For joining me.
I appreciate it.
And, you're leaving soon. It's good to have you.
Yes, sir.
Leaving soon for the Marines. It's good to have you here one last time to have a big football talk with him and with all of you. Thank you all very much for watching. This was a long one, and I warned you guys about that ahead of time. But thank you so much for watching this segment of the Talk with AVC. I'll see you all next week.